G'day guys, how are we doing today? How many have we got in here? I think we've got a few. Let's have a quick look. There's two of you. What's going on? Am I too early in the morning? Let's have a how we are going today. Who's in there? Greg is in there, looks like. G'day Greg. What's going on? Got some stuff going on today. Busy day, mate, busy day. At the moment for us over here, it's pretty bloody chilly outside. Got the fire going inside there at the moment. So, g'day guys. We are in Victoria here in Australia. We're on our another lockdown for the coronavirus bizzo. This is the fourth lifetime we've locked down. We're quite the pro at this now, and it's just crazy. I'm doing a little bit different. You probably can hear some music playing, and I think you can hear me okay. It's just something that I'm trying at the moment. So if you think that's too loud or too soft, or you can't hear me, just let me know. I've done some testing and I think it's okay. Yeah, so we're on our fourth lockdown now. Fourth lockdown for COVID. 7 days apparently, but who knows, we'll see. Which was a bit of a pain because we got what happened was there was a breach in, we have a hotel quarantine system here. Don't ask me why it's in the hotel, like why you'd quarantine people in a hotel, but anyway, that's the way we do it here for whatever reason. And in another state, somebody was in quarantine there, they got all positive tests and all the rest of it, come out, caught it from hotel quarantine, come over to us and started spreading it over here. So what a pain in the ass. We were going away this weekend. We were going away to a place called Beechworth. It's up in the high country, so anyone who watches, the sound is a bit strange. Is the sound because you can't hear me, or is it something else? I might just turn that music off and we'll see. Patricia, does that sound better? Micro lag. Maybe it's too much pushing down the pipe. Anyway, I'll just turn that off. So anyway, we were going up to a place called Beechworth. It's in the high country, lots of autumn leaves, mountains, all that sort of thing, waterfalls, and I had lots of videos to shoot there as well while we're up there, but that's not happening at the moment. That'll have to happen later. How many have we got in here? Static like. Oh, now it's okay. Must be the music. That's good to know. I'll keep that way. You won't hear the music anymore. You're just going to have to listen to me, and that's just the way it's going to be. Where are we up to? I'll just see how many people are in here. Just make sure. Oh yeah, I can see all the chats now. That's good. I couldn't see it a minute ago. Oh, we've got a few in here. 9 in here. That's enough. We'll get cracking with it all. So the lunar eclipse, that was interesting here. It was the first time that I'd really got to use the telescope that I've got. I'll show you some pictures here. What we did, I did some stuff with the telescope with the iPhone, and it worked really well. For those who saw the video and some of the stuff on my Instagram and that, it worked really, really well. I was really happy with how that went. I tried with the S21 Ultra as well, just handheld, like the 30 times zoom and the 100 times zoom. And somebody else actually mentioned it on the Facebook page that they kind of struggled a little bit, and I struggled a bit with it too. I'll show you some photos. That one there, that's a S21 Ultra photo, and you can see there it really struggled a bit with the focus. I'm not sure why, it just did. I have a suspicion as to why, but we'll talk about that in a second. This is a night mode photo that I took with the S21 Ultra. I'll just zoom in a bit there, and it kind of looks funky. This is a little bit of cloud around the moon. I think it just struggled a bit with the color. We'll keep going through some of these. This is, that's an iPhone photo. iPhone photo through the telescope. This is another S21 Ultra photo. And again, it looked like it struggled a little bit. S21 photo, S21 Ultra photo again, and back at the start again. But what I think happened is that, can you say your Instagram? Of course you can. Fill your boots. Go for it. I think what happens is that with the S21 Ultra, it has this AI learning that it does constantly, and as you take more and more photos, it adapts the camera to what you think, what it thinks you're going to want to be shooting. So if you're shooting a lot of moon photos, for example, it's going to get slightly better. It's going to add a little bit of contrast, a little bit of sharpness to that image after it takes the photo. And I think what happened is, because all of a sudden we're shooting a moon that was red, it didn't know what to do, and it kind of run home to mama and didn't really want to take a photo very well. And I think that's what happened. There's a few guys on the Facebook page there that also struggled with it, and that's why I think it struggled with it. It's a shame that you can't do the 30 times zoom in manual mode, because it would have overcome that. When we're taking photos of like what we're doing here with the moon, I think that we know more about what we're trying to do than what the AI learning algorithm does. But anyway, that was that. You saw what I did with the telescope, and that was pretty cool. I was having a bit of a chat with my neighbour on Facebook. She was putting a post on there, and it was a pretty typical iPhone photo, you know, black sky, white little dot that was really bright. And I put one of my photos from my phone onto the page, and you may have seen that. I'm not sure if I've got it in this little pile here. We'll see. I don't. But when I put it on there, you probably saw them on Instagram and stuff. It's a nice red moon. There's a little bit of cloud haze around it. It's a really cool photo. It's just from an iPhone. And she was blown away by it. And she was going to send a kid up here to have a look through the telescope as well while we're out there having a look. But the key to doing it, the key to the telescope is the focal length and the diameter. Like, so when you look at telescopes, you'll find that the telescope that I'm using, for example, is a Celestron Nexstar 130 SLT. The 130 is millimeters and how wide that piece of glass is, if you like. The mirror at the end of it, it's how wide the diameter is of that tube, is 130 millimeters. So if you're looking at a telescope for yourself, and I'll talk about this a little bit in the video that I've got coming up next week, is you want it to be at least 100 millimeters. So mine's 130. Just keep in mind the millimeters and inches thing. So you can Celestron push out some pretty impressive telescopes, and they're 6, 8, 10 inches. So they're really quite big. And the wider it is the wider the aperture is, if you think of it that way, the more light it's going to let in. And that's kind of important when we're pushing up to a dark sky or trying to take photos of the moon. The other thing is, if for the moon stuff that we do, that I've just done, you want it to be at least 600 millimeters long, the focal length at least 600 millimeters. And that's the one that I'm using is about 650. And to put this into perspective, the telescope I'm using, and I'll show you more about that telescope in a video, I got it second hand here because we live on a bloody island and everything just takes ages to get here, and the world is what it is at the moment. Nothing seems to be in stock, and I look at ordering one of these things new or buying one of these things new, and they're just not coming. They're not due until like August or something, and that's when I was looking back in March. So I ended up finding one second hand, and that's pretty typical with the astronomy stuff. So a lot of people might go into astronomy, and they go and buy themselves a telescope, and that telescope gets used for a month or so, and then it gets put in the cupboard and gets forgotten about, and one day they clean the cupboard out and go, I might sell this. So that's what happened with me, and I bought this thing pretty cheap as a second-hand telescope. I drove a couple of hours because I'm pretty remote, and they were just as remote, just remote differently, and I was able to pick it up pretty bloody cheap. So 100 millimeters diameter, 650 mil or 600 mil focal length minimum, and you should be able to get the same sort of moon photos that I got just the other day. I'll just read through these before I show you this. There's the Instagram, Huawei phone photography. And it should be a good Instagram. I'll check that out later because you're a gun photographer. How does stacking night photos give you more detail? If the camera picture is the same quality, I don't understand how it works. Stacking is more about noise reduction. So the higher we push the ISO, the digital enhancement, light enhancement, if you like, in that camera, the more we push that ISO higher, the more noise, digital noise that gets put into the photo. And when you shoot multiples and then stack them, in the stacking process, it gets rid of that noise. It just focuses on, not focuses, but it just identifies where the stars are in the sky and layers them in the stack. And the noise, because it will be different in every single photo, because noise isn't a stable, constant thing, it moves all through the photo. The stacking process identifies that noise, gets rid of it, and it makes a clearer photo. That's how it works. You will also get more detail in the galactic core, in any night object, for that matter. The more you stack, the more images that you have, and the better you stack it, gets rid of the noise, brings in more contrast, more sharpness, more definition to the night objects. So when you start doing things like Milky Way photography, the more you stack into that galactic core, the better that galactic core will be. And that's the case with astrophotography since digital has come about anyway. Not sure if they did it with film, don't know. But certainly with digital, I've been stacking images for years on my DSLR. And you can also, you can get pretty good about just doing the one photo. And quite often you'll see on social media, this is a astrophotography photo, single capture, they'll say. And there's a bit of talent to be, and some of the stuff that we do here, a lot of the stuff that we do here is not stacked, it's just a single shot. And the one photo with some light painting techniques and stuff, and you can get some pretty good images that way. So that's why we stack the photos. Can you look at edges of the moon photos taken with... It's not an overlay. I think that's just chromic aberration, I think it's called. I just bought an 8-inch. So what you're talking about there is... Patricia was talking about this edge, this blue edge around here. And that's... You get that with some photos with the high contrasting sort of image. Chromic aberration is what they call. You can get rid of it. This is just straight out of the camera, this particular photo. I think, well, I haven't had it with other photos from the S21 Ultra, only with those the other night. And I think that's just because the phone was struggling with the algorithms that it has. You can, I haven't done it, but you can certainly put that into Lightroom, and there's actually a tick box there you can remove that. And it does a pretty good job most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time, to get rid of that little blue halo. Just bought an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope, and that would be a bloody good telescope to do this with as well. That's going to be a big, heavy mongrel thing to cart around the bush, right out in the field, but that's, you still, for an 8-inch Dobsonian telescope, you're going to get some pretty bloody impressive images of the night sky. I don't think you need 100mm for the moon because it's so bright. It's more about the focusing and the detail in the craters and stuff. And what I read was that the wider it is, the more detail you're going to have in the moon. You're certainly going to get pretty good shots without 100mm, but you're going to be certainly stuck with the moon. When I was researching this, what I found was the smaller the aperture, the less detail they were getting in the moon, and 100mm seemed to be the sweet spot. If you've got something that counters that, though, I'm interested, because when you get to 100mm and 600mm focal length, you start getting beyond the cheaper telescopes, if you like. It starts getting a bit more intermediate price-wise. So I'm interested to see what you think. Who's that, Dragonfly? What you think about a smaller aperture. That, to me, doesn't make sense, but I'm keen. If you know something more than I do, and I don't know, I certainly don't know anything more than what I'm telling you guys about telescopes. It's something new for me as well. I'm just showing you what I'm learning as I go along. The key to the telescope photos that I've taken though is this. So there's different mounts that you can get for telescopes, and there's some pretty cheap ones. And I've looked at so many reviews on different phone mounting. So the phone mounts into this, sits in there. The telescope viewer sits here. Like, you just clamp that onto it and tighten it up with that. There's certainly some cheap ones around. They look pretty flimsy. This thing here is engineered incredibly well, and I'll talk more about this one in the video. But the gearing that's on this, have a look at that. It's all metal gearing. It doesn't move. It's rock solid. It's Tonka tough. I don't know if that's a term that you guys are familiar with. Tonka tough. Tonka is a brand of kids' toys that when I was a kid, we had like dump trucks and like front end loaders and stuff. They were like machinery, and they were big. They were probably, I don't know, 12, 18 inches long, and they were made of metal, and you could throw these things out a car window at 40 k's an hour and they wouldn't break. So they were Tonka tough. So that's a term that we use here occasionally, is Tonka tough. But that, it's absolutely worth it. This can go onto telescopes, microscopes, binoculars, basically anything that rifle scopes, anything that you put your eye up to magnify, this here will work. And the gears that are on this will, I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you this here or not. You can see there the gears are, these dials here, there's 3 dials. The name of this is a Nexstar ZXY or something like that, or XYZ or something, because it's got the 3 axes, the X-axis, the Y-axis and the Z-axis. So this will move it closer or further from the telescope. It's perfect for phones. It's Tonka tough. You don't need to worry about it moving that little bit. Anything that you do at night time, and if you're playing with cheap gear, it's just going to piss you off because it doesn't work the way you want it to work. And when it's dark, you get frustrated, just go home. That is absolutely worth. It's a little bit more expensive. It was probably about here in Australia, that was about $130 or $140, maybe $120. So that's Australian dollars. So over in the States there, it's probably, I don't know, $4.50 or something. Let's have a quick look here. P30 Pro, the image with and without the AI is very different. Yeah, I've read that too. And I've seen somebody, I looked at that. So what Patricia's talking about there is the AI on the Huawei P30, and I reckon the P40 as well. When they do the zoom, because Samsung's not like the trailblazer in the 100 times zoom. That was a Huawei thing before, back when it was cool. Or no, Huawei did it before it was cool. Is that right? But what they did is the AI in the Huawei is it AI? Would you call it AI? They basically went, here's a moon photo, and I can see that you're photographing a moon, and I'm just going to use the photo that I took of the moon with my DSLR and just put it at the top of yours and make it look better than what it was. And it's been proven. There's been people taking photos of, you go and search for it, there's been people taking photos of golf balls on black, like dark backgrounds, and it turns it into a moon. So I think the Huawei phones for astrophotography are pretty bloody good, and they got caught out with doing that. The P50, the Huawei P50 Pro, still no word as to when that's coming out. That was due out in March, and then it was due out in April, and it's May. Now they're talking about September. So for whatever reason, they're bringing out the Huawei with in the same sort of time frame as the Pixel 6 and the iPhone 13, and I don't know why they did that, but I think you kind of shot yourself in the foot when you did that, because people are going to be buying those other two products for the most part, because the Huawei product is priced around the same sort of point. Oh yeah, cool. I was just reading Dragonfly's comment there about the aperture on the telescope. In saying that, so he's talking about there, or she, sorry, can't remember. The bigger the aperture, the more detail, just like most things. It's not worth it for just the moon. And I would say that, like, I'm looking over there at the telescope that I bought, and it's still set up. I don't ever take it down unless I'm going somewhere, because I just walk it out my back door and out into the backyard, and it's dark enough and I can do what I want to do. But it's sitting like my head height. It's a big chunk of equipment, and I don't think you would buy one of those just to photograph the moon. You'd be wanting to look at other things and photograph other things. But anyway, I digress. Talk about telescope. Wow, we're getting through this quick. I've only got a few more things to talk to you about. I mentioned there on the Facebook post about stock that I'm getting to do reviews and use in videos. Sorry. And I mentioned it to you last time we went live about some of the products that I've got and doing videos on. They're sponsored videos, like they're sending me this stuff for free and using it on videos, or they're paying me to do these reviews on these products. And if they're not good, well, you'll certainly know that they're not good. If they're good, I'll certainly tell you they're good. And I think I mentioned last time in a live that I'm not going to bring something to you guys that I think is just shit and show you that it's awesome. It's just not how I am. Sorry, I'm just reading comments, guys. I don't mean to just like stop talking and go off into La La Land. Huawei's doing a software and product launch on the 2nd of June. Yeah, maybe. These are the next products that I've got. So whilst I was in hospital a couple of weeks ago, I'll give you an update on that if you want. So I went to hospital with couldn't breathe, and finally got a chance to pop in for a few minutes. Love these live streams, but haven't been able to make it in person. Always terrific stuff. Well, what do you mean a minute? Where you going? Hang around, dude. I know you always miss it, because I think you mentioned it once, then twice, or something like that. I remember. So I went off to hospital, and because we thought that was a lung infection, and we treated me for that, and it didn't work, and I went to hospital, and then they said, sent me off to a CT scan, and they said, you've got blood clots on your lungs. And then I was in hospital for longer, and they said, we'll take some blood, and I reckon they took, whilst I was in hospital, probably, there goes Siri thinking that I'm talking to her. I'll just turn that off. Oops. Shush. You're going to ring someone now, aren't you? Go away. Wow. No, they don't listen to us at all. So anyway, I was in hospital for these these blood clots, and they took a heap of blood, probably a good litre of blood over the time that I was in there, to run lots of different tests. One of these tests is very indicative of blood clots, and it came back negative, although the CT scan came back as a positive. I then went, I was on blood thinners, I still am on blood thinners for the clots, and then I went to get some other scans, and where you breathe in this radioactive gas or some bloody thing. But basically you lay on this bed in a CT scan, same machine, and takes a heap of photos, and after you've just breathed this stuff in, then they put more crap up your arm, radioactive crap, to see where it goes through your lungs, and it came back as clear as well. So the doctors are kind of like, I don't know what's going on with this guy, and because this blood clots was showing up on the CT scan, and these other things say you don't, and he still can't breathe, so what the hell. So I went and saw a specialist, and that was just the other day, Thursday, and so 2 days ago, and he was probably very, 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 very clever, I think. He basically sat there and went through all these scans with a few other doctors, and they all went, no, that scan's wrong. He doesn't have blood clots at all. So that's a relief. And he's gone, well, you've got, you had this infection. It's almost certainly led to asthma. So, yeah, I've got asthma. Everyone every other person in the world has asthma. It's certainly dealable. We can deal with it, and I'm being treated like that at the moment, and I feel pretty bloody good. So hopefully it's just asthma, and I've got some other head shrinky sort of things from army days, and that's led to a few other little like things that anxiety affects your body in different ways, and so those two things combined had me in a pretty bad way. That's the current thinking about where I am, but I'm feeling pretty bloody good at the moment, so that's good. That comment about need to recruit an app developer to make an intervalometer for the iPhone is a bloody sensational idea. It would work pretty well. Not as well as you would hope, I think. I've thought about this a fair bit, and I actually had a developer. One of you guys is actually an app developer. Not sure if he's in here or not. And he made an app for stacking images on an iPhone, and it works really well. The downside is that you can't take multiple exposures on an iPhone without an intervalometer. So it's got awesome potential, but you don't have that start off. No, I don't smoke. Haven't smoked for 25 years, so not bad. What was I talking about? So anyway, I spoke to this guy about the app that he made, and he said, doing the intervalometer is a bit harder than what just saying so. So anyway, it would be good to have that intervalometer for an iPhone. What I will say though is that I'm not sure if you photograph with the iPhone there, Dragonfly, but I can get very, 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 very different photos. And I probably haven't even spoken to you guys about this before. I can set up my iPhone, go into night mode, touch and focus on a star, take a photo, pro raw photo. It doesn't matter if it's pro raw or not. It does the testing I've done. It does the same thing with whether it's raw or not. Take a photo of the stars and end up with a result. That's great. And because the iPhone works, and we've discussed this before, more like a HDR, so it takes multiple exposures and then blends for exposure. And what I can then do is I can take another photo, and whilst it's taking those photos, I'll get my bright torch and shine it in the frame, not like at the camera, but like into the frame where the photo's being taken, and put more light out there just for a couple of seconds, and I'll get a vastly different photo. So if you're shooting with an iPhone, try that next time you're out there. Put it on a tripod, go into night mode, take a photo of your stars, and just try it for a few different photos. It only take 30 seconds, and just shine a bright light out there on some foreground subjects, and the stars will be different. Even if it's a little bit of haze in the air, like a little bit of fog or something, shine your torch up there as well, just for a couple of seconds, and some of those frames will go, whoa, it's really bright, and they'll expose differently for the other frames, and it's very interesting the way it works. And I came across it by accident. I was just taking photos for a video one night, and I did this, and not just by accident, as in I shined a torch into the frame by accident, and the photo was so much better. And I thought, what the hell happened then? So then I did a few more photos and actually tested that, and it's different. Every time you throw a torchlight in there, or a light in there, a light source into that frame, I think that the night mode photography algorithm goes, there's a really bright frame in there, and adjusts the other frames. That's what I think. But definitely try it next time you go out there. You got the 12 mini. Where are you in the world? I may have something for you. You smoke and haven't had the same kind of thing. Persistent bronchitis. Stop smoking. It's easier for me to say than it is for you to give up, I'm sure. You had to step away, Greg. I was wondering why you're so quiet. Anyway, man, how did that conversation digress the way it did? We went from me being in hospital to talking about shining flashlights into the iPhone night photo. So, some of the gear I've had the Ulanzi gear, and I'll give some of that away probably the next live session that we do. I'll do it all live. And the Sandmark stuff, I'm probably doing more with Sandmark. they've asked me if I want to keep doing some other videos. So, and I really like the gear, so I'm not going to give any of that away, certainly not yet. Some of the Ulanzi stuff I'll be giving away, and these here I'll certainly give away, because you can only have so many of these things before you go, I'm never going to use that, and somebody else could use it and benefit from it. Mumbai, Czech Republic. Dude, send me a email and let me know a postal address, because I have something for you. When I ran competition with the, where is it? It's under my desk. I'm not going to get it out right now. But you remember the Whitestone dome glass, the covers that go onto the front of your phone, the screen protectors. So when they sent me a few of the S21s, I ran that competition, and I gave away all the S21s, and I was really hoping someone would come back and say, hey, I've got a 12 mini, and no one did. But I've got a 12 mini screen protector there. So if you want it, send me an email, dude, and I'll send it off to you. The gear that was actually one of the videos I was going to shoot when I went to the high country this weekend, but we're stuck here, so I've got to work out another way to do it, is some more lenses, and another company has sent me some lenses. They're not, it's actually a company I've never heard of before, and this is them. This is, will you see that? Yeah, you can see that. Movo is what they're called, and they're clip-on lenses. So that's a telephoto lens. Then there's a wide angle lens, and what's this one? Super fisheye lens. And I've opened up one of them, the wide angle lens, and it's metal design. It looks pretty good. I'm not 100% sure, and I'll check it before I do too much, certainly before I send it out, or I do a video about it. But I'm pretty sure they even screw into the Sandmark phone holders. And I haven't got it on my desk, but anyway. But I'll be shooting a video with those ones, and then I'll give these 3 away as well. So they've got the clips, as you can see, and they'll go onto, well, any phone, regardless of the brand that sits on the front of it. So once that video's done, next live, it'll almost certainly be the next live, unless we're locked down for more and I can't get away, and how many videos can you actually do in your backyard? So anyway, once they're done, I'll give them away, and almost certainly some phone holders as well from Ulanzi, or maybe even the light from Ulanzi. That light that I did, that RGB light, they're actually sending me a different one shortly, and I'll shoot a video with both of those, and I'll probably give those away as well. The Harley Davidson video that I did with that light, it was actually when I was pretty crook, so it's probably not as good a quality as I would have liked to have done, especially for a sponsored video. So I'll probably do another one of them. I really like the light. It's a really good light for doing that sort of photography, that light painting sort of photography. So once I've done that, we'll sit down here, and whoever's in the chat room at the time, I'll end up giving some of that away as well. What else have we got? Oh, probably want to edit a video. Edit a video. That's what I sit here and do every other bloody day. Edit a photo. I'll just open this up, and Greg, you bloody legend. Getting these super chats in, it's awesome. I really appreciate it, man. When I was telling Sarah about it, Sarah's my wife, I was telling Sarah, I said, something weird happened last time I did my live stream, and it was, people were giving me money, and it hadn't happened before, and it was such a I don't know how to describe it. It was bizarre, but it was humbling, and it was just so bloody cool. Because I go into the other chat rooms with into other live streams with like YouTube educators, and so many people do that, and it's a way, I guess, that people say, hey, thanks for doing what you're doing, sort of thing. And it's quite often, though, with those rooms, is that room, or the chat can have, you might have like 300 people in there, and you really want to know how to do something, and so you're asking these YouTube educators, how do I do this? And your question just gets lost in the mix of questions. So they will quite often put a super chat in there, and that's what Greg's done. And another one, bloody legends, Andre, love this channel, mate. Thanks, man. And it's a way that so for me, as the I'm not sure if you guys can see at the top there, but for me, I can see that they stay at the top of the list, so I know that someone's actually paid some dollars for me to answer a certain question, and it's a way for, I guess, you support the channel and you get your question answered. So by all means, if you want to know something, guys, in particular, ask the question when you're throwing those dollars at me. Look, I appreciate it regardless. You certainly don't need to throw dollars at me. Having you guys here and having this conversation going, I enjoy that. So last time I was live, within a few minutes of me finishing that live, somebody sent me an email, and the email was, here's some photos for your next live. And I've had other people also email me a couple of photos, but it was the first photo that I got, and I was like, I'm editing that because I've never had the opportunity to edit one of these photos before, because what he took a photo of, we just don't get it here. And this was Frederick Solberg. I'm not sure if he's in here, but it's a ripper photo. It's actually the photo I used on the thumbnail for this live. I'll just see what this is. I'm working on the double exposure star trials picture I put on Facebook. I know who you are now. Yep, it's definitely the better way to do it. If you've got and I explained it, I think well enough in that video. Take two photos, don't move anything. Take one of the foreground, light paint that foreground photo, then do your Star Trails photo with your Nightcap app, and then merge those two in Snapseed, and it's definitely going to be a better photo. For those who don't know what we are talking about, let me show you. This photo. This is the photo that we're talking about. The foreground in this photo here is, well, it's Nightcap app doesn't do it very well, and that looks to me like it's a bit blurry. The night sky is full of planes. Sure, they've got to be planes. Are they planes? It's a bit hard to tell with iPhones if they're planes or meteors, but I don't know. What are they? Mark? Are they planes, you reckon? But anyway, taking two images in this photo, in this type of photo, would have been so much better because of all this cool rock sort of feature that you've got going on there. I think that would be the better way to do it. Frederick Solberg is here. So this is a photo. Can I get it up there? There it is. And of the Northern Lights and satellites. Of course they're bloody satellites. Idiot. They're satellites. Of course they're satellites. So I looked at that photo. Just go back to that. I looked at that photo and I'm I haven't seen planes around us for so long because, COVID. There's just been bugger all planes around. And when I saw that, I was like, what are they? Of course they're freaking satellites. Idiot. I should use zoom. Should I use zooming in mobile astro? No. Don't use zoom for astrophotography. Zooming is, even if it's a mechanical zoom, there's a thing called a rule of 500, and we don't talk about it too much on this channel. I certainly, when I teach astrophotography with proper cameras, the lens that we put onto that camera is all important when it comes to how long we expose for. The longer you have that focal length, the shorter amount of time you can expose for without getting star trails on your stars, and that's something that you would generally want to avoid. So the rule of 500 is 500 divided by the focal length, and that will give you an answer in seconds. It's a rough guide, the longer that focal length, the more star trails you're going to have, or the less light coming in, because the shutter speed is shorter. So don't zoom at all. Never thought of satellites either. Well, that makes me feel better. I can't believe I did that. That's gave me a chuckle. Of course they're bloody satellites, idiot. Let's look at this photo here. So it was within a couple of minutes of me finishing the last live session that I got 3 photos, and this one here was just awesome. I absolutely love what's happening in the sky in this photo. I love that there's a human element to it, even though there's no people in it. I think that a human element to a photo always makes it better. It gives you a sense of scale, with this sort of photo especially. Excuse me a second. It's pretty early here. That's like my 3rd cup of coffee, I think. And I'm talking a lot, and I don't usually talk very much, so my throat gets all raspy and yada, yada, yada. But with any sort of astrophotography sort of photo, I think it's important to put an element of humanity into it to give you a sense of the scale of the overall. And you can see by that building there, you go, well, I've been around long enough that I know roughly how big a window is going to be, or how big a door is going to be, so it gives you a sense of scale to this photo. And if I'm not mistaken, Frederick, did you say it was your parents' farm? And I look at this and I go, you got snow on your farm, how do you grow your grass? Anyway, bloody Starlink ruining our pictures. I read the other day that they're turning down the lights on these things to make them less of a problem for people like us. It's and I'll probably agree with that. So the app that I use, the Night Sky app, where it shows, I've done videos about this with the iPhone, how to find the ISS, and it actually has all the Starlink satellites as well. And there have been times where I've seen it in the sky, a train of satellites, and I can't see them. I'll take photos, long exposure photos, and they're just not turning up. So I think they've done something with them, but certainly other times I definitely see them. I think they've done something, not sure really. Yeah, and to say that you find that the planes are dotted, that's fine if it wasn't an iPhone, because the iPhone will give you that dotted line anyway, because it doesn't shoot for a solid open shutter of all that length of time. Parents' farm in northern Norway. It's bloody cool. What I think about this photo, we'll edit this not like any other astrophotography photo. So when I look at this, I go, there's a really bright, I want to maintain that sky. The sky is just freaking awesome, and you want to maintain that. The mountain that's next to it, or a hill, or whatever you want to call it, it's way in the shadows, but I want to bring some of that out. And there's a really bright highlight in this photo as well. So I'm going to do it differently to what I would normally do. We could try hitting the auto button, and it's going to do that. It's going to blow out the sky a little bit, certainly going to blow out that highlight of that light that's there. But if you look at the mountain, all of a sudden we've got details in that mountain, and that's cool. So I'm just going to go back and get rid of that auto, and I'm going to do something that I don't normally do, is go straight to the selective edit and go to the brush tool, and I'm going to paint in that mountain. Just that. And go to light, bring the contrast a little bit, and bring the shadows right up. And I'm going to expose exposure up a little bit, just to bring that mountain out in that photo. Now it's no longer a big dark space. And do you want to do anything else there? Go down to the blacks and bring the blacks. I think the blacks will, yeah, it does. Not too much, that'll bring in a bit too much haze. A slight amount of black. And I think that already makes a massive difference to this photo. I'll hit the tick on that. We'll go into light, increase the contrast, and I'm looking now at the sky. I'm happy with what's happened with the mountain and the detail of what's happening in the mountain there. If I look at the sky now, the more contrast I bring into this, the more defined those northern green lights become, and I quite like that. Go down to the highlights, and now I'm looking at the foreground with that really bright spotlight that's out there, and bring that down slightly. If I touch and hold on that photo now, there's the before and after. There's not a great deal that we've done to this, and there doesn't need to be a great deal. And the reason I'm showing you this photo is, well, 3 reasons really. One, I've never done one of these photos before, and it was cool. 2, don't be afraid to do something that's out of the ordinary. Like the very first thing that I did here was using a brush tool on a specific part of the photo before doing anything other global adjustment. And don't be afraid to do that. And 3 is that edit's done. And I've done like 3 things. That's it. You don't need to go over the top with any of your editing. If you look at the before and after of that photo, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. And that's all I'll do to that photo. So you don't need to go over the top with any of these things. That's a ripper photo, by the way. I really like that photo. He sent me some other photos, but this was the one I like the most because we just don't have that sort of stuff here. Let's read through these. Found a few Starlinks around here. It is pretty cool to see. The Starlink train as well. They've been up in the air for, I reckon, about at least 18 months. I remember one morning I was out walking. This is a Starlink train I'm talking about. I was out walking, and it was just pitch black. It was dark as dark, and I was going for a walk before I started work that morning. And I looked up, and I hadn't seen them before. And I said, what the bloody hell is that? And I actually took a photo, handheld night mode, 10 seconds. It was a ripper photo. It's like all these little lines going through the sky. And that was easy 18 months ago. And I think it was probably 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. It was all over the news here that people in Melbourne had seen it in like the capital city of the state that I live in. And everyone was freaking out. People were running around, aliens and all sort of bullshit. And you think, what is wrong with you people? Educate yourself. They've been there for ages. Just look up occasionally and you'll see. I think they paint satellites black. Oh, that's interesting. Once they get into orbit, they're really dark. Oh, I didn't know that. So they paint satellites black now. That's interesting. And somehow they claim they're going to paint the ones already in the sky black. Can't possibly. How? Going to send up Mario and Luigi in a spaceship and paint them because they're painters, aren't they? That's interesting. That's probably all I've got to talk to you guys about today. Let's check my list of stuff I want to talk to you about, and it is. That's everything I want to talk to you about. I'm normally a couple of weeks ahead in my video scheduling, but with how crook I've been, I was glad that I had a few videos in the pipe, if you like, so that in the can, I think they call it, so that whilst I was convalescing, I had videos there for you guys to see. So this week, I'm actually still halfway through shooting that video. That's how far behind I am. The video's not ready yet, but it'll be out in the next few days. All about the telescope that I've got and the mount, more about this mount that I talked to you about before. And then I'll get out there and film some stuff with these lenses, and hopefully in 2 weeks I'll be sending some of these your way. That's about it for me, guys. Thank you to those guys who threw some dollars at me. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in Facebook and here in 2 weeks' time. All right. I'll catch you later.